Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 35 of That Moment Heart to Heart Talk. And today I'm here and I'm so excited to be here with Ben Levin. Ben, welcome.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Ben, usually I shared this with you before that usually when I interview people, I like to have a bit of a rapport with them before we actually go live on an interview. And because of your busy schedule and all the things that you've got going on as a senior in high school, when I was given this slot by your publicist, right, or the person that's doing your PR, I thought, okay,
Yeah,
I take
Andrea Pass. She's awesome.
she is pretty awesome. She was so helpful in having us just be so set up for today. So thank you so much.
Andrea's been really good with getting me interviews. Thank you, Andrea.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Um, Ben, so I'm so excited to talk to you. I cannot do justice to who you are, so I'm going to have you kind of fill in those blanks. But I want to tell people that when I saw that you were a teenager, and I work so much with just the autism world, right? And so an autistic teenager, even though you don't like labels, but then you wrote a book.
It's complicated, my feelings about labels. I understand why most people don't like being put in boxes. However, this time, being claiming the label saved me.
I love that. I want to talk about that. Okay, let's just dive in, okay? Because there's no reason then to not dive in. Tell us a little bit about that because being part of this realm, there are so many people that feel like I don't want that label. And then there are people who are like this gave me so many different things. It gave me a reason to do certain things. It gave me services if I needed them. It had me understand myself more. Why did the label save you?
I guess maybe saved is the wrong word, but it freed me. What happened was when I was in elementary school, I did a program that gave me more social skills. However, my family misinterpreted the goal of the program and thought it was to cure my autism. Worse, they thought it actually did, which led to a lot of confusion for me as well as some self issues. I thought the fact I'd even once had autism, as I thought, made me an inferior human being.
I
Then, in eighth grade, me and my friend got into a fight about whether or not you can recover from autism, and that was when I realized that most people don't think you can, and I kept it a secret because I didn't want to be seen as a liar. But my other reason was it felt good to not have people know I was autistic. I'd just switched schools and I'd been very open about my autism at my old school. I felt liberated that nobody knew and that I could make a fresh start. But it turned out to stifle me, and I made very little growth in my friendship during the next 3 or so years. Because I was keeping such a huge secret. Redemption really doesn't mean denying who you are. When I realized that, I spent several months trying to figure out whether or not to share that I used to be autistic as I thought.
mm,
I knew most people didn't believe it, but I I didn't want to be seen as a liar, which, as I said earlier, which was my main reason for keeping it a secret. But I knew I couldn't keep living with such a huge secret holding me back. Then in February, about 5 months after I realized how much my secret was stifling me, last February, just to clarify, a
mhm,
close relative and I had a conversation, and he told me he actually thought I was still autistic.
mm.
That that startled me, and I then spent an intense weekend trying to figure out what it truly meant to be on the spectrum. In
Mm,
the end, I finally accepted that even though there's no question the program gave me more social skills and made me function much, much better, autism really is lifelong, but I shouldn't be ashamed of my autism. It's the idea that you can recover and that autism is something that you should get rid of in yourself, which is harm. I realized that being autistic does not make me less human. It 2 months later, for Autism Awareness Month, or as I'd rather call it, Autism Acceptance Month, I shared my story on Instagram.
mm,
I posted saying what I'd been through and that I was autistic and proud to be so. I did the post with, and if anyone sees this who has something they're ashamed of, I just want to say never hide what you are,
mm,
embrace it.
mm.
And the night I shared was so incredible. I got so many supportive messages in response.
Mhm.
It meant so much. I also realized that night that I could help others. Too many people on the spectrum struggle with the same self esteem issue I do.
Yeah,
Autism is overrepresented a, as this terrible thing, an epidemic that is destroying our society.
yeah,
And I do understand that there are some problems with autism that need to be dealt with, but at the same time, we also need to focus on the gifts of autism. I really want to help change the way being on the spectrum and people on the spectrum are viewed.
yeah. Ben, can I tell you, I want to share something personal with you on here. And I have to say, when I was young in my career, right? Like when I was in college, I met a lot of amazing professors and went to a lot of amazing classes, but in the social work and psychology classes, nobody could answer the question of what is the experience of having autism, what's going on, right? And it was seen, just like you said, as this like epidemic, this like terrible thing, and you don't know this about me, but I became quite obsessed with finding out what were the differences between families who saw autism as an empowering, right, and who saw it as something that was a very dark thing, that was something really hard. And that's what I made it my life's work to find out. And I think what you're saying is that we were on the same sort of wavelength there, that there's something that is empowering and beautiful and like adds to the color of life, right? And I want to go back a little bit, right? Because you just fast forwarded us through your journey that evening, and I kind of want to go through it in slow motion. Would that be okay?
Sure.
Okay. So, because I'm so interested in growth through struggling, what you shared was exactly that, right? But I want to talk a little bit, even though it's not always easy, about the struggle that you were having that evening and maybe days or months or weeks around that time. Like, what was the difficulty or the challenge or that moment where the pain of it was just like, I can't hide it anymore, or I can't I can't keep this up, I need to be authentic, or what was going on for you that created this change that you just decided to break through?
I had I don't have to tell you or anyone for that matter that the pandemic's been hard. For me, the pandemic led to many revelations, and one was realizing that there were a lot of people who I'd considered myself close with, many of whom I still do at school, who were real who were really just my casual friends. Or I don't know if it's that black and white. There might be a little gray, but I realized how undeveloped my friendships were.
Mm,
I was Give me a moment.
sure.
I I actually felt this over dependency on my friendships and on being this new me, I guess, where nobody knew, and I'd struggled to fit in a lot when I was younger with other kids my age
Mhm.
because of my weird habits, and that's part of the reason why I it felt so liberating when I was keeping my autism secret, because here was my chance to start all over. Even at my old school, after I became more popular, I still self conscious around the people who knew me from before sixth grade. I,
Mm,
I was I was in fourth grade when I officially stopped considering myself autistic when I thought I'd recovered, as but I went through a hard time from that over the next year until sixth grade when a friend helped me become a better person. We can go into that later. But even friends I'd made before then, I felt so self-conscious about how I felt they still saw me as this weird kid. And
mhm,
here was my chance to start over where nobody knew how weird I used to be.
mhm,
And I kind of needed that. I was scared to lose friends or drop anyone I because having all these friends who I had I clinged to my friends in a way that was very, very unhealthy.
mhm,
I uh, with this one friend who felt really secure,
mhm,
I considered telling her, but it turned out because she was close with my brother, she already knew,
mhm,
and it was then that I realized that I probably shouldn't be keeping it a secret,
mhm,
and I I also realized I it was that night after realizing, after so long of seeing my school as my redemption and my community there, that redemption is not denying who you are. I also realized that so many of my friendships were very, very undeveloped.
mhm.
And
Are you saying Ben, can I interrupt you for a moment? Are you
mhm,
saying that when you say my friendships were really undeveloped, that sounds to me like it came from within you. Like somebody wasn't saying to you, "Hey, your friendships are undeveloped." But like what was that feeling or how did you come to that realization that there was a distinction between how your friendships were and how you'd like them to be?
just conversations with my family, I guess. I don't feel
Yeah.
comfortable going more specific than that.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. You know, I think what you're bringing up is so important, which is the power of the people in your life that really love you and know you, right? And for them to be able to be honest with you and for you to hear them. That's awesome. Who would you say was the most instrumental person in your life that really helped you through this realization?
My mom.
Hmm.
She's been the most important person in my life in general, but she's important to me because I've always been able to talk to her about everything.
Mhm. That's so special. That's so special. Ben, I really wanna know something. I wanna break it up a little bit and ask, what's your favorite thing to do? Like, what do you do on your off time?
I love to write. I love going on walks. I love reading. I
Mhm.
love spending time with friends.
That's awesome. Can we talk a little bit about your writing? Because you're a very, accomplished author.
Yes, writing is my favorite thing.
When did you begin writing?
When I was 10, almost 11,
Wow, and can you tell us a little bit about that?
I I always loved stories. As a little kid, I used to love rewriting stories under different names. When I was 10, I wrote a Jewish version of Harry Potter, which my mom kept accidentally referring to as a book, which made me decide why not turn it into a book. So I gave writing a go, and it turned out to be something I really liked.
I love that so much. And is that part of your published work?
No, I can't publish it actually because it's politically incorrect.
Okay, good.
You're freezing.
Am I okay now?
Yeah.
Awesome. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
Hmm.
And I told you, we've got Vanna Go-Go at home. So when she starts barking, all mics have to go down for those people listening for the podcast version. Um, but tell me a little bit about the book that you had written about your life experience.
I didn't write a book about my life experience.
What did you write a book about?
Homelessness.
Got it. And why did you write about homelessness?
My rabbi showed me and my class at religious school a video in eighth grade about children in Florida who were facing homelessness, and it made me want to raise awareness and fight against homelessness.
That sounds to me like it's about your life's mission.
What do you mean?
It sounds to me like even though it wasn't something that you went through, that it's certainly a part of your mission in life is to inspire other people through adversity.
I see that.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about the book?
The book revolves around a young boy named David whose family is homeless and he struggles through every challenge imaginable, including hunger, being bullied, and his father's alcohol addiction. He copes through his friends and sports, he he learns a lot about hard work. It's it's not an easy read, but it's I've been told it's uplifting a little at the same time.
I love that. And it's meant to be read for younger people as well, correct?
Middle schoolers and high schoolers mostly.
Yeah. Do you have any ambitions in having this be part of a curriculum in school?
That would actually be cool.
Yeah. What do you think the impact would be?
More people would be aware about homelessness, more people would care, and more people would help.
Yeah. I love that so much. So Ben, the title of our segment today is Autism Navigation, Living Life as an Autistic Writer. And I wonder if you can share one or two things that have really been significant in being an autistic writer. You know, things that have been challenging as well as things that have been awesome.
being a writer on the spectrum allows me to be better at tuning life out so I can just write and concentrate. I'm also really good at holding a bunch of different storylines at once. I
Mhm.
love working on different stories at once. And my brother says every person on the spectrum has a superpower and mine's my writing, which has been a huge help with helping me claim my autism. Currently, the gifts I know of that have came from my autism are my writing and some very special friendships I have with other people on the spectrum.
I love that so much. Thank you for sharing that. As someone who is experiencing a great deal and very courageous in putting yourself out there, I wonder if you can share some advice that you might have for parents of children on the spectrum and also for kids that are on the spectrum.
I understand that your children aren't who you imagined them to be, but try to see the best in them and embrace every part of them, even their autism. And I understand not feeling great about the struggles your kids have, but these struggles can be overcame.
Yeah,
And and to the kids, don't give up, embrace yourself. We are as capable of leading full and complete lives as anyone.
mm. What is something that really struck you that maybe mom, because I know you said that she's a significant part of your life, that mom has done that really empowers you and, really places you in a position to know how amazing you are?
Hmm. Mom's r- really done a lot to help make me able to be handle my autism e- without struggling as much. For example, she was the one who who created the program or the homes or my homeschool that she how the program worked was adults would take turns spending time with me and trying to encourage me to spend time, to interact with them. It She helped create while the program had been designed by someone else, she helped create a team for me and design years around this program.
That is
And
incredible.
and she also always looked for good diets for me, which have been a major part in helping me function well. I'm really glad to be on the diets, even though sometimes it feels funny to not have sweets or other foods. My friends are, or to be the only one not eating sometimes, which I'm hardly ever happens. But people don't realize how much of an impact food can make. I
Mhm.
mean, I know people who've cheated on their diets. I don't want to get more specific, but I and while I used to do that with fruit, where sometimes I'd bend the rules with it,
Mhm.
I I'm real I really appreciate that, and it makes so much sense to me. I'd much rather avoid food than end up spacing out or having a temper tantrum.
Mhm. Totally. It sounds like you have a very strong will and a really strong mindset around this. Can I ask you, Ben, what would you say you would call your mindset? Some people say, oh, this person has a very limiting mindset, another a positive mindset or a negative mindset. What would you say your mindset has been around your experiences or challenges you've had?
That's a good question. I guess someone who is still learning. I've
Mm,
never really thought of it before.
I love that. Yeah, it sounds like maybe a growth mindset, someone who continues to learn and grow and expand. Does that sound pretty on point?
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. There's a book by Carol Dweck called The Growth Mindset, and I would look into it if I were you because it sounds like you really fit the mold there. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm so inspired by you, Ben. Can I ask you a couple of more questions?
Sure.
Awesome. So I want to, while I have you, ask you something around, what is the advice that you can give to people out there who really don't understand autism? They don't really have it in their life. They've never met someone on the spectrum. And like, what's something maybe they shouldn't say to someone? And what's something that you've been told that was really helpful? So one thing that is like, don't say that to someone on the spectrum or, and what's one thing that was really helpful?
Good question. All I can think of is autism has been is what not to call autism. Autism is way too often called a sickness or a problem.
Mm,
I once saw that in some foreign language, the definition for autism is a brain sickness. I was furious when I saw that. I It's very interesting with the wording. I consider it both a type of brain and a different ability. I
mm-hmm,
don't like calling it a disability, but I understand the need since we do need some special services and not labeling autism a disability threatens the abilities for those services to come to those who need it.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's very complicated. I like saying autism's not a curse, it's a gift. And I do believe that with my whole heart. But one thing I've needed to work on is even though I feel like I kind of have to be extreme because autism is way, way, way overrepresented as a problem.
mm-hmm,
I don't want to sound delusional or like I don't understand the challenges. Does
mm-hmm.
that make sense?
It makes more sense than you know. And you're not sounding delusional at all. You're actually speaking to something that's very much alive, right? Which is in order to have certain medical and professional worlds sort of communicate and for services to be possible, unfortunately, especially in our Western society, often we have to pathologize things, right? But what you're also saying is that while you see the utility for that, the experience of it and what it actually is none of that, right? Like it's not a death sentence. This is a gift and a superpower in many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just so touched by how you're sharing because so many of us have a harder time putting it into words, but because it's something that you live, it seems like it's easier for you. You just do it so well. And Ben, what's something that was really positive that someone has said to you or shared with you that maybe empowered you or made you feel good? What's something that you can share with people as a good thing to share with others?
Hmm. Good question. The night I shared my autism, a lot of the comments were similar. Most of them told me, amazing, Ben. I'm really proud of you.
Mm,
I got some heart emojis as well. A few even said that I was inspiring and what I did was inspiring. And I think that's one of the most important things that I can make an impact and I want to make an impact.
yeah, you definitely make an impact. Ben, why do you think that your sharing with others was so inspiring?
I don't know. I think because what I did was really emotional.
Mhm.
I I was really scared to do it.
Mhm.
I wasn't sure how people would react.
Mhm.
I I had to sing to myself while I was walking to the place where I chose to post it. I wanted to post it somewhere special so I wouldn't be too scared. But when I think why it was so impactful was because it was so I was being my authentic self. I was sh- sharing something which I've been told was courageous.
Mhm.
I I want to be careful with this. I don't want to toot my own horn too much.
It's okay. This is a place where you can toot away. It's all
And
right.
I I was saying I thought I'd once been autistic. I kept that a secret because I didn't want to be seen as a liar and because I felt ashamed. But
Mhm.
now I know that I am still autistic, but that I shouldn't be ashamed. And I'm embracing my autism.
Mhm.
And
Yeah. You know, go ahead.
I don't know what I was going to say. Sorry.
Don't be sorry at all. Do you know who Brene Brown is?
Can you repeat?
Brene Brown.
No.
So Brene Brown is, and I can send you this link after we're done so we can continue communicating and I can share some good
Hmm.
stuff with you. But Brene Brown is a researcher and she's a social worker and she's very well known. And one of the things that she found, Ben, was that people who are vulnerable are very courageous people. Meaning, in order for you to be vulnerable, you have to be courageous because it's not easy to be vulnerable and to really share your true self with other people, especially when you're afraid. And so I think that when people hear your story and they hear what you shared, it's almost like they see themselves a little bit in you. Maybe they're not autistic, but maybe they're dealing with something that they're struggling with. And because you shared your story, they feel like, hey, maybe I can share mine. Does that resonate?
Yes.
Yeah. So, in many ways, what you did was a huge gift. Yeah. And I love that you said, and you don't have to share where, but I love that you said that when you shared, that story, you went to a place that felt safe for you. And if you want, I would love for you to share what that was, but you had it. It's beautiful to me that you had such insight about how to make this a special experience for yourself. And I wonder, how did you come to that decision? Like, hey, I'm going to go to this place to do it.
Good question. I mean, after that weekend where I finally accepted I'm still autistic, I wanted to post it immediately. However, my brother thought it would be smarter to post it in April because it was Autism Awareness Month.
Mm,
And most of March figuring out a good amount of stuff for it.
mhm,
After I told one of my best friends about accepting it, one from my old school who actually was still is also autistic and is also the friend who made me a better person in 6th grade. Something in me seemed to get more excited. I the next day for an assignment for creative writing class, I wrote a letter to my 14-year-old self. That's how old I was when I transferred,
mhm,
giving some advice about the future. And I also started picking out pictures for and working on a caption. And I made a shirt for myself with the rainbow infinity symbol that read, "I'm autistic and I'm proud," which I took a picture of myself in.
mm,
And I and I knew I don't really remember exactly why I chose the place, I think, because for me this felt like a spiritual place. This place where I chose to go is actually somewhere where I like to go to pray.
mhm.
I and I wanted to feel like I was with God, I guess, while I posted.
I love that so much. Thank you for sharing that with us. Ben, speaking of that, and you don't have to speak too deeply into it if you don't want, you can go as deep as you want. But in regards to religion and spirituality, part of what I find with people who've experienced post traumatic growth, like real growth through challenge, is that sometimes they have a strengthened spirituality or their religion has been strengthened or how they
Mm-mm.
make meaning out of God or whatever it is that they believe in has shifted or maybe become stronger. Did that happen for you as well or did you have a different experience?
I don't know. I mean, I am what I'd personally call a moderate Jew. I am Jewish, but I'm not very religious.
Mhm.
I do enjoy celebrating the holidays and I do feel meaning when I go to services.
Mhm. Got it. And
Hmm.
and in terms of just how you see yourself, how has that shifted at all?
I felt more free to be myself after I posted. Like like I said, I was being held back by keeping it a secret, and I do feel like something in me awoke where I felt more like a leader, I guess. I mean, I'm not the most outgoing person,
Mm,
but I felt like there's someone who could. It was after I made the post that I first realized I can make a difference with the way people view autism.
yeah.
And I think I've been more. I'm. I still struggle sometimes with being hard on myself. Trust me, I'm very hard on myself, but
Mm,
I'm. I've made a lot of progress since accepting my autism because even though I don't use my autism as an excuse, I do feel like I understand myself a little better now that I've accepted that I'll always have it.
yeah. Ben, you said something about being a leader. would you mind if I gave you a humble assessment of that?
Sure.
So you said maybe I feel like maybe, like a leader maybe, right? And you were and you said sometimes you struggle with being outgoing, but
I guess the thing is, I don't see myself as a leader. That was just what came to mind, I guess.
yeah, well, before you even shared that, I guess what I want to say is that extroversion and being social is not a prerequisite to being a leader. In fact, people who are good leaders create good leaders. And the only way to create good leaders is by being a leader, someone who actually models being vulnerable, courageous, and doing all the things that you've done. So you can go on after today knowing I am a leader because that's exactly what you've done is you've created this, you know,
I'm
group of people probably that feel more comfortable.
I'm still not completely sure I'm ready to see myself that way, but maybe I can work towards it.
I love that. And that's definitely a growth mindset. Yeah. Um, is there anything else maybe I didn't ask or something that you'd like to share that you think would be really important for people to know?
Hmm. I think we hit it all.
I love it. And Ben, if I may say, whenever I've asked you a question, you've paused and given such nice thought to the answers. And that's a really great quality to have as someone who speaks. So thank you for being so thoughtful.
Thank you for saying that. It means a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome. And Ben, I usually don't ask this live, but I'm curious, what was it like being interviewed by me? How was your experience?
It was fun and very comforting. I enjoyed getting to know you, and you were so thoughtful with your responses, and everything you said was so nice. And when you talked about what it was like for you when you were studying psychology and how it puzzled you that autism so was viewed so negatively and how you wanted to change that, my first thought was, yes, my kind of person.
Woo! I love being in good company, Ben. So that makes me so happy. And this was quite literally the highlight of my day. And let me tell you, I had some great highlights, but this was it. Thank you so much for taking the time after your busy school day to let me ask you some really deep questions.
No problem.
And how can people get in touch with you?
Follow my Instagram, Ben Levin Author, or go to my website, benlevinauthor.com.
Awesome. And where can they buy your book?
Either Amazon.com, the book's called In the Hole, just a reminder, or
Mhm.
they can go to jumpmasterpress.org.
Great. Awesome. Ben, I want to reserve the right to call on you again to have another interview if something interesting pops up. And I
You
can't,
totally can.
amazing. I can't wait to talk to you again. I think that you were inspiring, and this was one of the more genuine and just laid back conversations I've loved so much. So thank you.
No
And
problem.
everyone out there, thank you so much for joining. There were definitely a few people that were watching live. If you're watching the replay, please know that this was that moment, heart to heart talk with Dr. Victoria. Today I had Ben Levin on. If you're interested in his book, please go check it out. And thank you so much, Ben. We'll
No
talk.
problem, Victoria.
Okay, we'll talk soon. And everyone out there, listen to episode 36 next week. And have a good night, everyone.